Man, we are live, officially live. Welcome to another episode of Mediocre Dads Bible Study, where being mediocre is a choice, and you have to refuse to be mediocre every single day. I'm your host, Quan. I go by Q. I am usually joined by my co-host on the Mediocre Dads Bible Study, MB, but I'm gonna need y'all to pray for him. He's feeling under the weather. Well, and after he came back from his trip, so I just some prayers, please. I appreciate those. I know he would appreciate them as well as praying for a speedy recovery. He did text me to this tonight and said Thursday, so we will be again going up live again with him next Thursday. So trust me, me and MB are still rocking and rolling, doing our thing, guys. Today is a special day, right? And every day is a special day. Breathing and walking this earth, but today's a special day for a specific reason. This is going to be more for maybe for my dads. I'm assuming. I assume more for my dads anyway, or my husbands, and that is today is the start of football season, guys. Like, look, it's Baltimore and Kansas City. I had the game on earlier. I'm rooting for Baltimore. I'm not gonna lie, because they got Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson is a freaking beast. And I like to see Patrick Mahomes. So if you're a Kansas City fan, I don't care because I like to see Patrick Mahomes. Not gonna lie, I'm just gonna be front with you. I like to see him lose because he wins a lot. It's just kind of how I feel about the matter. But this is not a sports thing. I just wanted to say tonight is the start of the football season. Super excited because I'm a Saints fan, and we're not doing so hot. I say we as if I'm on the team. I am not on the team. I know I'm not. As a fan, as a sports fan, all of my sports fans can understand and respect the fact when I say we, right? You can appreciate. You're like, yeah, I know I'm not on the team, but like it makes me feel like I'm with them. I'm with them there. I'm rooting for them. And for all those fans who punch their TV when their team loses, well, maybe you need to go some counseling. Chill out. Okay, that's a little excessive. I think it's very excessive. I'm not gonna lie. This is very, very dramatic for football team or a sports of that nature. But it doesn't matter nonetheless. Don't punch your TV, y'all. Don't unless you're getting. I don't know. I don't think you should punch your TV at all. I'm just gonna be honest. I think it's weird, and you shouldn't do it at all. So don't do that. I think it's a terrible idea. But hey, I wanted to make this episode the solo episode. I would say I'm gonna say it's gonna be a brief episode, and brief being usually we go for an hour, maybe a little over an hour. But I don't think I'm gonna go for an hour. I think I'm going for like 30 minutes. Solo episodes. I do like to keep it kind of short because I like talking to people, or I like having guests on and when I talk to them. So sometimes I forget how to just like word vomit on the microphone by myself, and I don't know. It could be strange at times, when I don't have a guest on. But anyway, I'm not gonna get too deep into that. I just wanted to I wanted to go over a topic that it's been near and dear to my heart, and something that I've been struggling with it in the sense that it's weighing heavy on my mind and on my heart, and it has a lot to do with just praying for your. I know me and MB have talked about this topic before. We've gone over it in great lengths. I won't say we've gone into great lengths, but we've talked about prayer, and that topic kind of came up. How we're called to pray for our enemies, and we're called to love our enemies as we love ourselves. Because especially since love that Jesus said, that's the most important commitment is to love your neighbor as much as you love. So and of course that means those people that you dislike. Of course that means the people that curb you. They just really just get under. They know how to get under your skin, and you really just know how to grind your gears. But I've been really struggling with this in the sense of like me and that individual that I if you've been following the show, you've probably familiar. You haven't. There's this individual in which I work with, and me and him have not been. It's not cohesive. There's not a lot of cohesion there, and it causes a lot of friction, internally within the office. And there was a point where it was just it was causing a lot of stress, from just, just thinking about it, and then just kind of for trying to prepare for that or that conversation with that individual. And it was just stressful. It truthfully was, it was a very, very stressful moment. Or yeah, I would call it a moment. And, you know, for me to finally, first, really truthfully, to kind of be able to just, I would say I will say this. Thought we hashed it out wholeheartedly. I thought we hashed it out, and I'm to find out we apparently didn't hash it out. And I say that. Sorry, guys. I'm double checking. Double check. I'm double checking that I am actually live on YouTube as well as live on Instagram. I see all over there on Instagram joining. I really appreciate that. But me and this individual, we weren't getting along, and we were having some issues, and so I was telling MB about it. I am live on. I want to make sure. And I was telling MB about it, and I was just like, I'm having a hard time, having this difficult time with this individual. He's proving to be complicated, and it's getting to the point where truthfully, I was ready to, man, I was ready to, put your dukes up type thing, and it just frustrated me so much because I couldn't believe how much of a negative impact that this person or anybody could have on my life who has no real bearing on my life, right? Like it just bothered me, just to my gut, it really bothered me. And, getting back into my faith and really getting back and devoting myself to prayer, one of the hardest things to do was really pray for those people that irritate you or upset you. And it made me think, and when me and MB were talking, it made me think of Lord's Prayer, and forgive those who trespass against us. And I'm just like, I know what that means. I read that and understand it, right? However, application part is the difficult part. But I mean, okay, so let's just be honest, right? And I've said this several times before. Anything in when you're growing in your faith and spirituality, anything when it comes related to the application is the difficult part. That's what makes it difficult, right? And it's not necessarily it's difficult for everyone, but I would just say like that's what the difficult part is. It's the application in your daily life because you are changing. Now God is the one who will change your heart. The Holy Spirit comes in and he changes your heart for the better, right? He reshapes it, if you will. Almost like you are formed into a cube, and then he's reshaping it into a cylinder, and so on and so forth, right? And so I think obviously that takes time, but I will say this, guys, and I say that because if you talk to me a year ago, even, right? Talk to me a year ago, I wouldn't be this. I would say there wouldn't be a struggle, and I say that, right, because I would just lean on what I believe to be true or the correct way to handle that. And that is, I'm going to get angry and I'm going to show you I'm angry. And if you do anything to escalate that anger already, well, it gives me justification to potentially fisticuffs or even yell at you or even embarrass you in some sort of way, right? Or say something that's demeaning to you, it's embarrassing for you and others and anybody who hears it. And so that is the old Quan. That is the Quan in which I would say, hey, I'm a believer, but I need to let him know. I need to let them know this is how I feel. And now the Quan, now I struggle because I know what's right. I know the right direction. And it's not to say I didn't know it was right back then, but I was comfortable saying, I was comfortable committing or violating committing a sin, that sin at the moment, because I was like, I'm a believer, but I'm not there yet, right? So I was comfortable. Now, when the more knowledge you get, the more powerful you realize how powerful God is, 2, how powerful the Word is, and 3, how powerful that life changing, how life changing, I won't say powerful, how life changing God is and can be, because it does give you this realization that you have changed. The person that you were is no longer here, and you have changed, because it's really easy to look in, from the wide angle lens and say, I haven't changed. Everything around me is still the same. But when you kind of really zoom in, you start to realize, like, oh, no, I have changed. There are I used to do this. I have to use this type of behavior, but now I don't do that type of behavior. This and the realization really sets in. You're like, okay, I have in fact changed. I have for the better, and God is really in my life, even though when I felt like He was not there or He wasn't present. And so, me and this individual, we've had several conversations. We be able to talk on a daily basis, and especially if it's work related. However, there's this undertone or subtlety of just like almost like just openly disrespect. I don't know if that makes sense. If you know what I mean, or if you ever had that individual who's just very subtle with their with some of the things, passive aggressive, right? Very passive aggressive, and it's more of a subtle jab, if you will, or where like underhand jab, where you could perceive it to be as a negative thing, but then they can also explain it away as if no, I didn't mean it that way. It's just said this, but it was the tone in which they said it that was clearly meant a derogatory towards you. And so that is honestly, and that is just kind of a lot of what is happening, what I'm noticing. However, with through God's help, but then also I talked to this guy, his name is Jason Lamar, and shout out to Jason Lamar, because he's actually going to be, his episode with Mediocre Dads is going to be released on Monday. So check that out, guys. He's a mindset coach, and came across him. Well, actually, Harry, one of the last guy that I had, or not he had him on a couple of weeks ago. He introduced us. He sent us kind of each other, say, hey, this is a good guy to talk to, have a go on your show. And so I and shout out to to Perry Fitness, man, on Instagram. I'll look, those guys are those two gentlemen are great with themselves, amazing dudes to talk to. But did the introduction, had Lamar on, we recorded the episode. His episode comes out on Monday, and he's a mindset coach, and I was talking to him, and it was amazing how he was articulating things and putting it in very simplistic ways, but also it was so simple that it made complete sense to me. And he was like, you basically applying this to your everyday life, and he was realistic about it. He this is what one of some things that he tells his clients is you have to live and being realistic. And he goes, you're not going to be happy all the time, but that doesn't mean that if you're not happy, you have to be sad, or you have to be depressed, or you have to be this, you have to be that, right? You're not going to be a happy person all the time, because then that one in itself is just crazy, right? But he was basically saying, he goes, telling me, he's like, I don't allow negativity around me, right? And I get it, right? Like some of y'all will hear that and like, what? I'm not going to share too much because I want you guys to watch the episode Monday. But more or less, the moral I would say that what I got from this was the fact of the matter is, there's negative people around you, there's negative energy around you, and for those of us who are initiated, always wanted. I would say it is more of actually a it's the demons and whatnot, those evil spirits that want to interfere and infect you with and consume your life and say this is how you should live. It's it reminds me of Saul, right? When Saul lost favor with God, what happened? There was this evil spirit or evil spirits that took over that took over Saul, and anytime David would come around, he would get angry, and these spirits would more or less take charge of his body, and they would convince him that David was this evil person. It was David's fault, all of these things. And David, in the beginning, as long as he played the harp, the evil spirits would leave Saul. Then it got to the point where Saul wanted to kill David, and there were many instances in which he would go out and he would try to kill David. And I'm sure if you've read Kings, you understand, you know what I'm talking about, in which, this is the kind of how the the story, the progression of how David became king of Judah, and then also and then in Israel, right? Like this is kind of that progression right here, and but he had to go through all of that, and right, and now imagine even kind of sticking with that, right? How David feels as Saul, who is this person who he's looked up to and considered a mentor, who David killed Goliath and Saul was the king, and Saul was like, hey, like you forever welcome, right? But but Saul still, these evil spirits consumed him and said, hey, no, you're going to kill, you should kill David. David's fault. David, get rid of David, get rid of David. And he thought if he got rid of David, all of his problems go. And, but David still prayed for Saul. David still had many opportunities to take out Saul and kill Saul himself. But what did David say? I think it was 3 occasions, if I remember correctly, at the top of my head. But it was 3 times, three times I remember correctly. And David said to Saul, after each incident, he said, who am I to kill God's anointed? And he basically said, hey, he doesn't have any resentment towards Saul, right? Because God anointed him to be king. And he was like, who am I to kill God's anointed? No, that's not, I will not do that. And, it was so amazing because David would still pray for Saul. They were, for lack of better terms, they were enemies, right? And like, I'm not here to say like, hey, like teach you kind of say that like, hey, they were enemies and this is what's happening. But like, Saul saw David as an enemy. David may not have seen Saul as an enemy. Saul saw David as an enemy unto himself. But David still prayed for Saul. David still prayed to God, say, hey, please just change Saul's heart. Like please stop him from wanting to kill me, wanting to attack me, right? And so David still prayed for him. Even when David's own son tried to kill him, David still prayed. David still prayed that said, hey, Lord, please, right? And I think those moments are so powerful because even in the midst of adversity and what he was going through, he still prayed for those individuals who wanted to hurt him. And so I may not be trying to be physically attacked right now. That's not what I'm going through. I will say that ultimately one of the things that it is, it's one of these attacks that I feel like these spiritual attacks that I'm being tested. And I think part of me believes that these tests that like God puts us through, or he puts on us, and he allows to happen, is his way of preparing us for what's to come, to say, hey, you've already experienced something similar to this, if not the same exact situation. But in that moment, what did you do? Did you call on me, or did you rely on yourself and say, or rely on flesh and say, I can take care of this. I've handled this. I know what I'm doing. Or did you say, this is God's battle. This is not my battle. I've said this before, and me and MB have said this before, that it's a spiritual battle that we face every single day. And so if you can sit there, if you can understand that, you can say, hey, this is not my battle. This is God's battle. Now, that doesn't mean I sit down and roll over and let the enemy take me. No, that means I understand that my strength and my power come from God. Just like the Israelites understood when they would before they would go into battle, they would say, God, please deliver us. Please give us, allow us to defeat these enemies. And even in Psalms you hear about how, it was with God's strength and God's power that the Israelites were able to overcome their enemies. And so, and I know that's in the battle and in the midst of war, but it's even applying that knowledge that to something as simple as you and this person don't get along, and being able to say, okay, God, I trust you. Whatever it is, give me the words to speak, direct my actions, direct my path, guide me, mentor, lead me, and have the Holy Spirit consume my heart, fill my heart with joy, and just teach me to just show love and compassion to them, right? Because I think, this whole, the idea of killing somebody with kindness, right? Like, I used to think that it was just an absurd saying, but in reality, it's one of these things. I think about it now, and I think about it, it's how, if you think about how Jesus, and a lot of times, would was so impactful was because there were people who actually they obviously wanted to kill him and wanted to hurt him, and it didn't, the Pharisees and Sadducees, they were like, how dare you, right? But like Jesus would in a lot of ways kill him with kindness, right? And it's not to say Jesus was just this like, timid person. That's not my intent here, but it is to say there were moments where, let's be honest, guys. You're reading the Bible and you're reading throughout Jesus' life, like the span of Jesus, and you're sitting there and you're thinking like, if I'm Jesus, I could, me in Jesus' shoes. Look, and this is why we're not Jesus. This is why we're not Jesus. Because if we were Jesus, look, when they were nailing Jesus' cross and it said he could have called on 7 legions of angels. Let me tell you right now. Oh yeah. We're not even going to wait to the point till I'm carrying the cross. I'm going to let you, the moment you say death, got you. Stay less. Look, y'all got legions of angels surrounding you. You know what I mean? Like this is why I'm not Jesus, right? This is why none of us are Jesus. None of us could be him because he was willing to pay that price. But like I said, guys, I think that's jokes aside, right? What I think is important here, and what I'm trying to really convey to you guys is the fact that, killing someone with kindness, if you will, is one of these. It's a tactic in which I think is a technique that works, and I think it still means that it requires prayer. It requires a lot of prayer, and to really, one, to show out loud to God to change your heart, but two, to gain a new perspective. Because I think a lot of times when we don't get along with people, we and they are both parties are lacking perspective, and we're lacking the perspective of each other's we're looking at it purely through the lens of us, and they're looking at it purely through them. It doesn't mean one is more right than the other. It just means I think no one's really willing to compromise and allowing pride and ego to get in the way. And I think that ultimately to prevent that is trying to change our perspective and change our vision to say, okay, how does this person see? Maybe it has to do with how this person sees me, and how this person is receiving some of the my tone, my body language. Maybe it's that aspect that's what is making them want to react this way. Like, and you may never know, but I believe that if we are going to be believers, if we're going to be followers of Christ, I do believe that these little quarrels that we get into, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, personal lives, I think we need to remember who's in charge and who directs our steps, where our path is, ultimately what is our goal, what's our purpose in life, and ultimately who we're here to support. Meaning, to my dads out there, and understand that your purpose in life should be your kids. Wholeheartedly, whether you see your kids on a daily basis or you see them every other weekend or you see them for summers, I don't know what your situations are, but regardless, your purpose is your kids. And that's the same thing for moms, right? Moms, your purpose should be your kids. So that regardless of how you and, baby daddy feel or vice versa, right? Your guys' ultimate purpose in life is to lead your kids and allow, and help them and mentor and guide them to be successful members of society. One, but two, successful in their eyes, and be able to have the confidence to walk out that door and go and take on life and to go through that journey of life that we all had experienced when we were, around 18, 19, 20, and some of us sooner, but also doing it with God at the forefront of their minds. And that is key, and that's essential. And I think a lot of times it's really easy and simple to say, I'm raising great kids, but it's also important that we're raising kids and having them, reminding them Jesus is the source. He is the source of power and strength and will that we pull from every single day. And teaching them that I believe is wholeheartedly going to only help them and build their confidence, because the world is evil. Like, regardless of how you feel, regardless left, right, middle, and different, whatever it is, politically, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. There are evil people out there. Wholeheartedly, there are evil people out there, and they want dangerous things to happen to your kids. They don't care about your kids. The only people who care about your kids and love your kids more than you is God. That's the only person. That's the only, I want to use not in person. That's the only deity. That's the only thing. He loves your kids more than you, right? And how do we know this? He knew how many hairs were on your head before he were made in your mom's womb. He knew, or they were before your kids were made in your room, your mom, right? If you're the mom, the mother of these kids. He knew. And that's what I'm saying, guys. Like, only person or the only being that's going to care for your kids more than you is God. And so always teach your kids that God is the forefront. When I pray for my daughters at night, I tell my oldest daughter, and I make sure she hears me, and she's always making sure, Dad, you didn't pray for me, you didn't pray for me. One of the things that I say when I pray for her, I say towards the end of the prayer, I said, please just allow her to remember every single day that you to keep you in her heart, guide her and direct. And I say something along those lines, and I really say that just so she knows remembers every day, like, oh, God, Jesus, right? And she's still learning the Holy Trinity, right? She's still learning about that, understanding what that is, because she does get confused. Not necessarily important for this podcast right now, but I say that just only because, it's part of my prayer. But anyway, I maybe I've gone on a crazy different tangent, and you guys are kind of like, what is he talking about right now? But ultimately, here's what I'll say, guys. I think, I do this because this allows me to word vomit. It's my podcast. I can do whatever I want. It's great. If you want to do a podcast just so you can talk and get people to listen, do a podcast. I highly encourage it. But I do one of the many reasons why I do the podcast is this allows me to talk out my thoughts. It allows me to talk out how I'm feeling, some things that are going on in my mind, and kind of like, all right, what's going on here, right? Like, how can I or alter my thought process? What do I need to do? How do I do that? And it allows me to, my platform allows me to do that. And so truthfully, it excites me when I'm able to talk about it and then kind of work and navigate, like, okay, all right, I see, this is what I need to do. This is where God's leading, how I'm doing. So I appreciate you guys listening. I really do. I think it's, it's amazing. Again, I love the podcast. I love doing this. Mediocre Dads. I appreciate all my followers. I appreciate all the subscribers. Please, guys, please subscribe to Mediocre Dads. It means a lot when you do on YouTube, and to really up the amount of subscribers we have on there. So if you're new to Mediocre Dads, and follow Mediocre Dads on YouTube, Instagram, Rumble, wherever you find us, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, thank you for joining us. If you're a returning viewer, well, first, welcome my old view or to the new viewers. But if you're a returning viewer, thank you, and I appreciate you returning. I appreciate you guys watching and really just taking the time to, out of your day, your busy days, your busy schedules, to watch me and hear what I have to say. It really means a lot to me. And guys, like I said, I love this. I love talking. I love really just spreading the good news, and really just talking about faith and how it's really changed me, developed me into a better person than the person I was then. And so, guys, with that, I think I've hit it a lot, hit the nail on the head here, and kind of with my rant, if you will. Like I said, guys, on Monday, be looking out for that episode with Jason Lamar. It was a phenomenal episode, guys. You're gonna, when you listen to that episode or watch the episode, however you consume Mediocre Dads, I can tell you, it's very simplistic. It's his articulation of something, how he articulates something simple. It's almost like how Jordan Peterson, but like more simple, right? If that makes sense. Like Jordan Peterson, after a while, you're kind of like, oh, okay, you're all too many words, But with Jason, what I enjoy a lot about listening, he turns these simple concepts, and he makes them simple, and he puts them in a way where you're just elegant way where you're like, never thought about that. Anyway, be looking out for the episode, guys. Really appreciate you guys joining us. Of course, guys, as I usually say, any episode. Being mediocre is a choice, and you have to refuse to be mediocre every single day, guys. Thank you for joining us. That's all I got. Mediocre Dads out.